Today, on the Vince Everett Ellison Show, is America resegregating itself? And after all these years of fighting and laws and whatnot, are we going back to segregation? We're going to talk about that today on the Vince Everett Ellison Show. This thing started. You know, Carl Jung said something. He's a great philosopher. I never will forget it, and I'm going to use this line a lot. He said, the chronic victim cannot be trusted. The chronic victim cannot be trusted. But that means you can't trust nobody in the Democratic Party because they're full of chronic victims. All the time. All the time. What somebody's done to them, what they can't do, what they've lost. All the time. The chronic victim. Because of that, we've tried to force something on America that I think if we had just left it alone, it would have happened organically itself. But we tried to use coercion and we tried to use the law. It was something that the old historians understood that these newfound people with the communism and everything could not understand. They really thought that the law can make you do anything you want. I mean, they tried it when they did prohibition. They were naive enough. We thought we now look at prohibition and say prohibition was insane. You can't pass laws to stop people from drinking. People are going to do what they want to do. But we tried it. The mafia and everything came from it. But we still hadn't learned our lesson. We still think that we can use the law to force black and white people to come together and like each other. And I'm going to read you something from my book, The Iron Triangle. Again, Book Authority gave it one of the number 61, the greatest political books ever written in the history of the world. I looked at Brown versus Board of Education and how they tried to use busing and forced integration to integrate the schools, and it just didn't work. Schools are still as segregated now as they've ever been. And right now, you know, we have this group up in Arkansas, around the Ozarks, and they're calling themselves back to the land. And what they are saying, they're saying that they want to build a place where only white Americans can live. They don't want any blacks, any Jews, any gays. And of course, to some people, that's just the most terrible thing in the world. You know, you don't want me around, I'll show you, I'll show you. And you got black preachers and you got white liberals just tripping off of it.
In the heart of Arkansas, construction is presently underway for a ethno-nationalist living community called Return to the Land. This new construction project, you're not going to believe it, as we are in 2025, is for whites only. The membership-driven plots are reserved for those with European ancestry only.
Pastor, why we gotta own some houses? Because I want poor white people to have to pay you rent. That even if they don't give us reparation, they gonna have to pay us back one way or another.
I mean, I don't care. Like I said before, man, if you don't want me around, just let me know. I have no problem with you doing it. But this is what Brown versus Board of Education said. They saw, Plessy versus Ferguson. Brown versus Board of Education overturned Plessy versus Ferguson. And Brown versus Board of Education said we're going to use force, we're going to use busing, we're going to use all this other stuff to force the races to come together. We're going to tell people you can't segregate on account of race and all of that. All right, this is what Brown says. This is what Plessy said before Brown. Plessy was done in 1992. Okay? This is what Plessy said. It said the argument also assumes that social prejudices may be overcome by some type of legislation, and that equal rights cannot be secured to the Negro except by an enforced commingling of the two races. It says we cannot accept this proposition. What proposition was that now? The equal rights cannot be secured to the Negro except by an enforced commingling of the two races. Got it? So in Plessy, they were saying, hey, the only way that black people can have equal rights is that you got to force black and white people to be together by law. The Supreme Court justices in Plessy said, we cannot accept this proposition. Then it says this, if the two races are to meet on terms of social equality, it must be the result of a natural affinity, a mutual appreciation of each other's merits, and a voluntary consent of individuals. Well, listen at that. If two races are to meet on terms of social equality, it must be the result of a natural affinity, a mutual appreciation of each other's merits, and a voluntary consent of individuals. A voluntary consent of individuals. Not the law, a voluntary consent. They went on to say, legislation is powerless to abolish distinctions based upon physical differences, and the attempt to do so can only result in accentuating the difficulties of the present situation. And Plessy was supposed to be racist. Legislation is powerless to eradicate racial instincts. Legislation is powerless to eradicate racial instincts. To abolish distinctions based upon physical differences, and the attempt to do so can only result in accentuating the difficulties of the present situation. If the civil and political rights of both races be equal, one cannot be inferior to the other. One cannot be inferior to the other, civilly or politically. If one race be inferior to the other socially, the Constitution of the United States cannot put them upon the same plane. That was Plessy versus Ferguson, Supreme Court decision that infamously said separate but equal. Now, do I believe in separate but equal? I don't believe the government should enforce it, but I believe in free association. I don't want to be around anyone that doesn't want to be around me. I just don't. And if you want me in your company, let's sit down and have a good time. So if these white people want to build their own little enclave up in the Ozarks Mountains and do their thing, do your thing, man. I don't care. But you're going to sure enough have some ignorant black preachers looking in the window and for some kind of way not feeling good about themselves unless they're allowed into the presence of these people that hate them. Oh, you got them now already complaining. How dare you keep me out? And you've always had these little situations. Jim Jones had that crazy thing down in Guyana. I remember this guy when I was a boy, his name was Yahweh Ben Yahweh. He had a black group down in Miami. And I think it was Hebrew Israelites, and they were keeping everybody out, just black people. And Yahweh was cutting off people's heads and beating them up and slapping around and everything. They put him in prison for it. He had this one dude, I think, said he killed like 6, 7 people for Yahweh. Cut their heads off. You have these Muslims in Texas that are saying they're going to build their own little enclave. And then you got the black inner cities where no white people are allowed to come. And white people don't complain. You don't ever see white folks complaining about trying to get into black spaces. I've never seen white folks march to get into a HBCU. Oh, but black folks raising hell about getting into Harvard and Yale and Princeton. Never seen white folks argue about trying to get an NAACP Image Award or a BET Award. Oh, but white black folks raising hell about trying to get an Oscar. It's amazing. And then when you walk around and wonder why you're not respected by anybody, you kind of see it now, don't you? So now these white people have decided to build themselves a place where they won't be harassed by people that they don't like. And when you look at the television today and you see what happened down in Cincinnati, where this white couple just got jumped on by a bunch of black folks, they just beat the hell out of them. They cold-cocked that lady and knocked her out, beat the man up, and people were just taking pictures of it. Nobody but one person called 911 with all that mess going on out there. And you're wondering why America is now in some areas saying we want to desegregate, we want to segregate ourselves from the people that we don't want to be around. Y'all, this is a shame. It's a shame that it's come to this, but it's also a shame that we haven't learned yet that if you want to get into these spaces, you earn your way in. Manners maketh man. This is something that too many people don't understand, of all races. Manners maketh man. How you treat one another, how you act toward each other, how you look, how you sound, how you talk. And if you don't want to have the proper manner, if you don't want to be elegant, you're not going to be around elegant people. If you're not intelligent, you're not going to be around intelligent people. Nobody should want to be tolerated. I definitely don't. We'll tolerate you. Yeah, thank you. So with all of these no good, lying, jackleg preachers who are begging still to get in spaces of people that don't want you in their spaces, in 2025, you still feel inferior if some racist white person or some racist Asian person or some racist Jewish person don't want you in their presence. You want to go and get the government to go take a gun and put it to their heads and force this person to accept you in their presence, and then you walk around acting like you've done something. In our Bible, we're not supposed to be at all concerned about how we're viewed by man. We're supposed to be concerned about how we're viewed by God. God only. And as I've said to you before, the book of Corinthians talks about 11 people that will not enter the kingdom of heaven, and number 11 is the extortioner. Who is the extortioner? The person that uses threats and coercion to get what they want. We started this stuff with the civil rights movement, with Martin Luther King Jr. and all of them using threats and coercion. Not teaching about the kingdom of God, not trying to teach people how to live right and to prepare themselves to live forever in the presence of Jesus Christ. No, we want to use the power of government to force white people to allow us in their spaces. Now, how do you think this made the racist white people feel who felt they were superior to us anyway? How do you think that makes them feel now? What did Carl Jung said? You cannot trust a person. There's a consummate victim. I remember hearing this story. You might have heard me say it about Martin Luther King Jr. Larry King, the old CNN host, told this story. It's in the book Words That Work. The writer Luntz asked Larry King what was his most memorable interview in his 50-year career. And Larry King said, Martin Luther King Jr., 1961. And Luntz said, oh man, Dr. King, tell me what was going on. So Larry King said, I was a young reporter, and I got a call from King's agent that said that King was going to be integrating a hotel, and he wanted me to come and cover it and put it in the paper. I told him I'd be there. He said, Larry King said, I got there early, waiting in the lobby. Here comes Martin Luther King Jr. He walks in, tells the clerk that he wants a room. The clerk probably makes about $1.50 an hour. Tells Martin Luther King Jr., we don't serve Negroes here, well, I'm not going to give you a room. King said, I'm not going to leave unless I get a room. Clerk said, leave, I'm going to call the police. Police. King said, call the cops, I ain't going nowhere. King waits for the police. Police comes in. They see the cameras. They see everything going on. They ask King to leave. King says, no, I'm not leaving unless I get a room. And they ask King, come on, son, what do you want? King didn't say anything. He asked King again, said, what do you want? King didn't say anything. And he said, what do you want, boy? King said, I want my dignity. I hate that story. Now, Larry King and Frank Luntz thought that was, oh, man, that is so cool. Oh, man, all he wanted was his dignity. They thought that was cool. Black man going to a white man, a white racist, demanding that this white racist give him his dignity. There's just one problem with that, y'all. Man can't give you your dignity. You were born with it. It's a gift from God. It's something that you exercise. If you wait for another human being to give you your dignity, he will always, always make you his slave because you will crave his acceptance. And this is where prostitution comes from, and this is where drug abuse comes from, and this is where people being misused and the marching and the begging comes from. Telling somebody else, you hold my dignity in your hands. Well, God gives me my dignity. You can't take it from me. It's mine. And this is where we still are today, 2025, still walking around begging white Americans who dislike us for our dignity. Now, there are white people out there, good Christian white folks who love us to death. Oh, we don't care about them. No, we want to go up to the Klan member, the Nazi, the Aryan Nation guy. We want him to like us instead of us telling him, I love you, racist. I don't care if you like me. But if you put your hands on me, I'm going to deal with you. If you take nothing else from this podcast, you take this. People are not oppressed and they're not victimized because of the color of their skin. They're oppressed and they're victimized because they're weak. And what we must do, and all people must do, is show strength and show power. That's the way to freedom. Do you think people don't mess with the United States of America because they just don't want to? They don't bother this nation because we spend more money on our military than all other nations combined. They don't bother us because we're strong. And these weak, soy-backed, lily-livered black men out here, these cowards, y'all make me sick and you stink in my nostrils. So y'all go up there to the Ozark Mountains. Started messing with those white folks up there, trying to force them to let you come in and live amongst them. They might have something for you up there in the Ozark Mountains. I'd advise you to stay down here and just live with your own people and be happy. I know it's going to be hard for y'all to do because unless white folks sign off on you, you feel real bad about yourself. So we're going to keep on watching this resegregation of America. We're going to keep on watching. People decide to go in their own safe spaces because they don't want to be around people who are trying to hurt them or people that are trying to hate them. We're going to talk about how it is nothing wrong with being around people that you love, people that you care about, and people that you trust, instead of being around a bunch of hyenas that are trying to destroy and rob you and kill you and take things from you. And we're going to talk about how America and our Constitution warrants you those decisions. So whether these people are racist or not, don't know, don't care. Whether these people like me or not, don't know, don't care. They don't want me there, so I'm not going there. I'm happy where I am, thank you very much. And for all you sniveling, coward, cognitive dissonance, inferior-minded, victim-minded people, like Carl Jung said, I don't trust you. And the rest of America don't either. And that's why we're segregating ourselves from you. So let the games begin. And you keep watching, you keep understanding this because I'm here to wake you up. Hope I did you some good today. So join me again for another edition of the Vince Everett Ellison Show. All right, friends, Vince Everett Ellison is here. I want you to go to my website. And on my website, you're going to see a lot of great stuff, man. You're going to see that we got t-shirts, we got caps. You got my books, my documentaries. You got all kinds of stuff on VinceSpeaksTruth.com. Go there. We're dropping new t-shirts. We're dropping new merchandise. My new book, The End of Tolerance, is there. The End of Tolerance. Make sure you get it. Make it number one. If you got my first three, get The End of Tolerance. It's just as good. And it's telling us we have to end our tolerance with these leftists, these Democrats. We can no longer allow them to sexually groom our children. We can no longer allow them to castrate little boys and call them little girls, run God out of the public square, take away our guns, take away our sovereignty. No longer allow it. So go on VinceSpeaksTruth.com. That is VinceSpeaksTruth.com. Hit merchandise. You'll see the t-shirts. You'll see the caps. You'll see the books. You'll see the documentaries. You'll see it all. And let's keep this ball rolling. God bless you.